So, Madam Chair,
I always forget the mic. I'm sorry. All right, calling the meeting to order. We do have quorum, and we're going to go around and do introductions inside the room and then outside. Victoria Chavez, El Paso County, to my right.
Gail Sturdivant, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Colorado Springs.
Scott Skinner, CDOT Transit Liaison.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lindsay Hawkes, CDOT Region 2 Planning.
Kathleen Collins, CDOT HQ, and Pikes Peak Area COG Planning Liaison.
Jeff Guthrie, CDOT Region 2 Planning Supervisor.
Allison Burns, Mountain Metro Grants Analyst.
Darren Horsemeyer, Community Planner at River Space Force Base.
John Lewis Sells, Transportation Director, PPACG.
Janelle Miller, Transportation Planner, PPACG.
Lisa Gagnon, Transit Planner, PPACG.
All right, in the audience. Jared.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jared Werner, Public Policy and Communications at PPACG.
Please, I'm sorry you were behind the post.
It's Stacy Delozier, Palmer Lake Public Works.
Thank you, Abba.
Hey, good afternoon. Abba Taveri, Deputy City Engineer, City of Fountain.
All right, somebody help me with that name. I don't want to butcher it. Mr. Vashish?
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Gaurav Vasisht. I'm the FHU project manager for the Pikes Peak Woodland Park SS4A project.
Thank you. Ian?
Good afternoon, Ian Johnson. I am the Sustainability Director at Colorado College, and I am a board member on for Pike Ride, and I'm here just as a fly on the wall and to observe what's going on today.
Very good. Jessica?
Jess Bechtel, PPACG Tip Planner.
John Hall?
Sorry, I didn't realize you were on me. Yeah, John Hall, CDOT, Region 2 North Program Engineer. Thanks.
Thank you. Stacy?
Stacy Delozier, Palmer Lake Public Works.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed you. You were down there on the end of my line. Anybody else online?
This is Aaron Busto with Federal Highways.
Thank you, Aaron. Todd?
This one, that button. Oh, there we go. Todd Frisbee, City of Colorado Springs Traffic Engineering Division.
Your first meeting?
What's that?
I said, is it your first meeting?
Yeah.
And Karen?
Karen Rowe, representing the City of Manitou Springs as their representative.
Thank you. I think we have our introductions except Will, and we'll just say hi to Will, who popped in late. So thanks for joining us, Will. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Shortest meeting, people.
Oh, we've had.
This is Allison, I motion.
In a second?
This is Alba, I second.
Thank you, Abba. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Jared, do we have any public comments or presentations?
Madam Chair, we didn't receive any in advance of this meeting, but we do have some people online who are not members of the TAC. If they would like to provide public comment at this time, please use the raise hand function within Microsoft Teams to indicate that you'd like to provide a public comment.
To make sure that we do everything we can to assist him with his hard time constraints that have been placed upon him.
Thank you. We will do that. Anything you need to chime in on now, Aaron?
No, thank you. I did not catch the first part of that, so I'm not sure what was said.
Sorry, Aaron, I had just mentioned to the group that you have some hard stops, given your current situation and that we will lose you at 2:30. So we want to make sure that we always give you the opportunity to move something up in the agenda if necessary. That was it. We were actually trying to be nice to you, believe it or not.
I'll choose to believe it. Thank you.
Wow. We're all punchy today, aren't we? Any comments on the meeting minutes from March 20th? Hearing none, I will take a motion.
This is Gail Sturter at the City of Colorado Springs. I move we approve the minutes as published.
Thank you, Gail. Second?
This is Allison. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those passed unanimously. Board of Directors report.
I can take that. I believe the only transportation related item that the board heard last month was the MPO boundary discussion that was also held here and at TAC TAC and CAC last month. The board was in favor of approving those adjustments, and now we'll take that through the official process with the state and with the feds.
And Will, I heard that the board members had very good things to say about you and your process, so congratulations.
Yeah, they did the slow clap and everything. It was amazing.
All righty. Any questions on the Board of Directors report? All right, action item, Danelle, multimodal transportation MMOF funds.
Yes, so as you all know, we put out a call for projects a couple months ago because there was some MMOF available in the region. Applications were submitted. We went through kind of the review process with CDOT. We're currently in a pause situation for two reasons. One is that we wanted to make sure that the process was adequately transparent and that we had gone through the proper process. We do have some scoring methodology and criteria in your packet today that I'd like to just go through with everybody briefly to make sure you're all good with it. Get some guidance on that if you have any today, or of course we can bring it back next month. The second reason we're paused is that we have heard through CDOT that the legislature has basically decided to do a sweep of the cash that is sitting in the MMOF bucket. My understanding is that it's a total of about 71 million. We believe that will come from the MPOs. We do not know yet how much will come directly from us, from PPACG. We do not know yet what the final numbers are or how that exactly will work, except that we've been told that projects that are under contract won't be touched, and that we as the MPO, meaning you all as the TAC, will be able to make the decisions on which projects to potentially move into the future and or cancel. Jeff is here, may have additional information, but at this point, we are kind of in a pause situation as far as awarding anything. Any questions on that portion? Sure.
Jeff, I just had lunch with you. I could have asked you at any time, but I didn't remember till just now. So there was a meeting this morning where we were chatting about this, and I want to get clarification. The MMOF, that was the first version of it, Multimodal Options Fund. So the M was for multimodal. MMOF, so multimodal was the two M's. Thank you. And that is the money that was available, and that's the money that they're looking to get to sweep away. Because here's the question the new MMOF, which is Multimodal Mitigations Option Fund, that is in fact is that a enterprise? So it's because it's an enterprise, it's not subject to being swept like the first one? Or did I ask you a question that you're not sure of either?
I'm actually not sure if that's an enterprise and I should know. So let me furiously message Michael Snow, the statewide program manager, and find
Yeah.
that out.
And I apologize. I certainly could have asked you at lunch, but seeing Aaron here made me remember that I gave a definition this morning, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's why I wanted to check with you. So I'm not perpetuating bad information. I apologize, Madam Chair. I just wanted to get that before I forgot again.
It is a good question. Thank you for asking it. And now, do you want to go ahead?
If there aren't additional questions on the funding availability portion, which of course we will get information to you as soon as we hear it, as soon as it's finalized. Jared, if you could scroll down to the next page. So these are the evaluation criteria for scoring that we have used previously for MMOF. We have adjusted these slightly now that we've been through the MMOF process a couple of times. We looked at adding some potential points to things like sponsor history, for example. The realistic, is the project implementation schedule realistic? Is the budget fitting with what CDOT believes is feasible? So we did make some slight adjustments there. If you scroll down one more page, Jared, we also put down some just preliminary thoughts on how we might delineate some of that potential points for each category. So I think something we ran into previously when we scored projects was that a lot of the projects could say, yes, we serve seniors and therefore we got full points. So what we tried to do was kind of put some delineation in there to help us hopefully make better decisions, or at least inform the scoring process. We are absolutely happy to go forward with this. We are happy to make changes. I will also point out that the state last year in 2024 did put out some guidance that I think they may be using with some of the TPRs, but they did stress that none of the MPOs, none of the TPRs have to use that guidance. We staff level kind of felt it was more, it put a little bit more work on both staff, but also the TAC and the applicants to go through some of those criteria. So we stuck with these, but again, happy to take any comments you might have, happy to make adjustments if you'd like.
Thoughts, comments, questions? Gail.
So first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time. What you guys have proposed are exactly what you asked. He asked you to do. You went to pull the old criteria that we had, and then you took the lessons we learned from the last MMOF call for projects, where we felt like there needed to be more granularity or some kind of quantitative scale to be able to provide this. So I think you've done a really good job. So thank you for that staff effort on that. And right now I don't have any specific comments on that. I think they look very reasonable. The one other thing though, I think it would be great as we go through this call for projects and maybe a minor modification to the application. Because what I think it would be great is if the applicant provided their opinion of what their score is and had the ability to not only give the score, but also have the ability to provide a brief narrative if they felt like they needed to justify their score. And then when that application comes to PPACG, that, you're really doing a staff validation if you have a disagreement or a different opinion on that we could see that. So when we get the summary sheets on just the scoring before we start considering, actually dollars, that we're all on a consistent playing field. So thank you for your efforts, and that would be my next recommendation for the call.
Excellent. We can certainly do that.
Yeah, and then again, the call, we sort of have to wait to, we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to start from scratch, basically, right? We're gonna have to wait to find out how much money we have, when we have it, and then we will send out the new application. So again, it doesn't look like we're gonna be in a rush anytime soon, but that being said, anything that you guys have input on, we're happy to get in there, so.
And we'll include the scoring as well in whenever we reissue that so that everybody knows what they're looking at.
Good point. Any other thoughts or comments? Online? I will just agree with what Gail said. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, Danelle, I think you have the next item.
I do.
UPWP.
Let's go.
Oh, is that an action item? I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
It is an action item, but it's just for guidance. So if everybody's happy with the scoring, we'll move forward with that.
Does anyone have any concerns with taking a vote today?
Victoria, this is Gail, and I don't. I think staff did an exceptionally good job following the request, and so I would move that we accept the proposed scoring criteria to be used for any future MMOF call for projects.
Very good. Do I have a second?
This is Allison, I second.
Thank you, Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great job. Thank you. All right, now I will move us on to the UPWP.
Yes, and this is also on here as an action item. We put it on here as an action item because we thought we may need to release for public comment earlier. After discussions with FHWA and CDOT, I think we don't need to put this out for public comment until our board will make the recommendation in June, so we can actually make that motion next month. However, we are looking for any guidance you may have on the UPWP. So as you all know, it's a document that we're federally required to do every 2 years. It kind of documents what we're doing in-house for our consolidated planning grant over that time period. We'll of course do an amendment if and when our financials change or our tasks change. If you haven't looked through it, some highlights for FY26 is completing the regional freight plan that Jason O'Brien is running. We will need to do another TIP, a fiscal year 27-31 TIP. We will be supporting the regional safety action plan, which you'll hear about in just a few minutes. We also talked about doing some updates to our public participation plan, which may also include some Title VI and some LEP, limited English proficiency plan updates. We're also looking at some opportunities to potentially acquire some imagery, some traffic data, some other kinds of things to hopefully support future planning. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the UPWP. Happy to take any guidance you may have. We did actually get some projects for the individual jurisdictions that weren't in your packet but are in the UPWP now. Kind of happy to take your guidance today. If you're ready to say, don't bring it back to us next month and go ahead and release it for public comment, we'll do that. If you're not ready, we'll table that to next month.
Questions or comments? Dale.
Danielle, thanks for all your work on this. And I know you've been working with each of the jurisdictions over the past couple of weeks. I would appreciate it. I know that you've got input that we don't see reflected in our packets.
Yes.
So I'd actually prefer that we get that incorporated so we can see what the final document's going to be before it goes up for public comment. So I'd prefer that we defer to next month to give you a formal recommendation since the schedule would allow us to do so.
Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? So I will ask, since we're going to put this off for a little bit, that hopefully within the next 2 weeks, anybody that does have specific comments on this, to please provide that to Danelle. And if somebody could give me a date on that, that would be awesome.
I will send out a follow-up email to say,
Perfect.
please have comments by X date. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
Do you need a recommendation?
Do we need a recommendation or do we just? No.
No,
Okay.
it's coming back. So
Coming back.
you basically, it was action for two reasons. One is if we needed to it, we would be like, hey, yeah, the schedule is such that for us to work backwards from our deadline, we need to take action today. We've had subsequent conversations with FHWA that said, no, you don't need to do it now. You can have a more convenient sort of time frame. And once we got that became this. And so it's one of those things, if you're all cool with it, which you are not, but if you were, that way we wouldn't have to waste your time. You could say yes, and then we didn't have to bring it again, but we will bring it back again next month.
Very good. And we will take hard eyes to it and make sure we have comments to Danelle in 2 weeks.
Right. And you got all the planning stuff for the back of any jurisdictional planning efforts. Great.
Very good. All right. Our next item is Jason and our safety action plan.
So these plans are more comprehensive than a lot of the safety planning efforts we've seen come through in the last few years. But there has been a lot of excellent work done locally that will feed into the plans and inform them and make them even better. I believe timeline-wise, Colorado Springs has been working on theirs for a few months and will start wrapping up and winding down this summer. Fountain and the regional plan have been going for just a couple of weeks, and we're aiming to finish by early next year. So there's already been a little coordination among the three planning teams, just so we're not all going off in radically different directions. And we're going to keep in touch and make sure that we're staying in sync where we can. So one quick note on the management of it. For the regional plan, the City of Woodland Park is actually the official project sponsor. That's because of eligibility issues under the SS4A program. The region wasn't eligible actually to be the official project sponsor. But PPACG is actually managing the day-by-day aspects of the project. So just want to give a thank you to Woodland Park for taking on that administrative overhead on behalf of the region. So it's appreciated. They're carrying that overhead of managing the grant, so they're just being a really good neighbor. So thanks, Woodland Park, for that. The funding for the regional plan isn't geographically restricted to the NPO urbanized area like a lot of the program funds we work with. So that is for our whole Council of Governments 3-county region. So one really important note, one of the main reasons that many jurisdictions pursue safety action plans is because these plans are a prerequisite for applying for project implementation funds. So there's a very healthy amount of this funding available out there under the SS4A program. A lot of folks are getting some pretty good sized projects, but a jurisdiction must have an approved SS4A action plan in order for their projects to be eligible. So Colorado Springs and Fountain will have eligible projects under their plans, and the rest of the region can have projects eligible under the umbrella of the regional plan. So that's how that'll work on a practical level. The cutoff for implementation grant applications that we're trying to make is June 2026, and it looks like that will be the final year for the fund that the funds are granted. So we really need to finish and get approval by April of next year. So it's a little bit of a tight timeline for a project of this size and scope, but it's doable. And our FHU consultants have a lot of experience. They've done several of these plans. So if we just stay diligent, stay on schedule, we should be in good shape. So that's kind of the high level stuff. So with that, I'll turn it over to our consultant project manager, Gaurav Vasisht.
Thanks, Jason. Is there a presentation that we could share, or I can just walk through the project? So I'll give that
There
a
should be
minute.
one that we can share, yes.
Okay. Well, while we wait for that, yeah, as Jason mentioned, this is a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant-funded project. 2022 to 2026 are the 5 years for $5 billion to be assigned to various jurisdictions across the nation. And the idea being it wants to reach at least 75% of the population. Right now, a lot of emphasis is on making sure that rural areas are covered under this plan in terms of improving safety. Of course, like for our project, the coverage area is El Paso, Park, and Teller counties, excluding Colorado Springs and Fountain. But yeah, we will be in close coordination with them. We have started that process as well. The idea and the goal behind this is to enable agencies to identify safety improvement projects and, of course, to implement these safety projects in the future.
Gaurav, can I interrupt real quick?
Of course.
You should be able to share your screen if you have a copy of the presentation with you. If not, we can do it from here.
I can, if that is visible, please let me know.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I was just, this is the project overview that Jason just gave. So moving on to our project purpose. So I'll just run through our project purpose. What are we doing as part of this project? What's necessary? And then I'll touch upon the requirements of the SS4A program. So the project purpose is, of course, safety. Safety is critical. We want to identify critical safety issues across the jurisdictions in order to develop a safety action plan that's highly driven by community input, stakeholder strategies, and stakeholder input, resulting in a program or a living document that helps to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries along the roadway network. Why the regional approach? Of course, safety doesn't stop at political boundaries. It is an issue that is across all regions. And what we want to do is address a lot of the rural challenges that we face in this area, which includes the ones that you see over here. So, limited resources, tourism, high-speed roadways are just a few of the contributing factors that we want to address through this concerted effort with this TAC and with all the jurisdictions in the area. And we are already working and hope to improve the cross-jurisdictional collaboration as part of this project, which is why we're already having conversations with Colorado Springs, with the City of Fountain, and of course with this TAC committee, with this TAC. The end goal is, of course, to have identify region-wide safety improvement projects. They can be localized, they can be systemic improvements, but the idea is that they should be scalable. They can be applicable to points or larger areas to improve safety. And I'll touch upon what that really means in terms of our identification of safety issues, focus areas, things of that nature. The first step, and this is along the lines of what we're working on, is identifying our analysis boundaries. So what we want to do is apply the safety improvements to more homogeneous areas. And what we identified working with PPACG and Woodland Park is we've split the areas into 3 main area types. And what you see in the more pink, red is the mountainous areas, mountainous rural. The yellow is the suburban area. Of course, Colorado Springs and Fountain are grayed out in this project, in this map. And then we have the eastern rural areas, which is more non-mountainous yet rural. And the reason to do this is because the safety patterns, the safety issues that we see in these kind of terrains and these kind of urban, suburban, and rural areas are extremely different. And each of these areas will require a different set of countermeasures, of safety improvements. And we want to package these so that they're applicable, and we don't want any one area to overshadow any of the others just because of density of crashes. For example, suburban areas have a much higher density of crashes than the mountain and the rural, the other rural areas, but that does not mean that those are not just as important to assess and to counteract. Quick touch upon the TAC oversight and guidance and why that's so important. This is one of the most important pieces of the SS4A program requirement. As Jason mentioned, that in order for us to be for the areas to be eligible for implementation grants, which will be another 1 billion left over in the program next year for the nation. We have to follow the requirements of the safety action plan. Right now, there are 7 requirements, and one of them is the first one is, and I have a list of this later, but leadership commitment and goal setting, and also a planning structure. So that's where the Transportation Oversight Committee or Technical Oversight Committee or TAC comes. It becomes very important. The idea being that this committee would oversee the process, make sure that it is legitimate, that it covers all the concerns of the areas, and that as we develop solutions, that they make sense. And we want to make sure that this is a process in which there is a flow of information across all jurisdictions in the area. In terms of our project, we will be providing regular updates to the TAC. We anticipate 4 TAC meetings, once each quarter, so that as we get to certain milestones, we will present to the TAC our findings, recommendations, and we want to garner as much input as we can. And then, of course, as the projects are developed, which is one of the main ideas behind it, is developing a list of prioritized safety projects. We want to make sure that the TAC approves of those projects and those make sense from a regional perspective. Just a quick touch upon the project schedule. This is going to be a very aggressive schedule. As Jason mentioned, we do, in essence, need to complete this entire plan within this year so that it can be adopted next year in time for implementation, planning, or demonstration grants. I'll touch upon those grants here in a second as well. So again, the 7 components that are required to be covered in a safety action plan are listed here. Leadership commitment and goal setting, the idea is that, like in all safety plans and projects at this level, there needs to be a leadership commitment so that there's impetus and energy behind this process, so that the teams that are working towards it have the support that they need. The creation of a planning structure for program oversight, which we are really happy to be working with this TAC, and I think this is a wonderful oversight committee for this project because of your commitment to safety and all the insights that you have in the region. The third piece is, of course, the core of it all, safety data analysis. This means this is a 2-pronged process. It's analyzing crash data to find crash patterns, crash hotspots, leading to development of projects, and then identifying overrepresented crash types, for example, to identify projects that could be applied. And then you package these projects for implementation grants in the future. The other side of the safety analysis is a systemic safety analysis, which is a proactive safety approach. So, one of the tenets of safety is that safety is proactive, safety is redundant, safety is scientific analysis of data. So we want to cover all of these. By systemic safety analysis, what I mean is it's a process developed by FSWA in which you identify risk factors that could lead to crashes. That way we can identify areas that are at risk, even if they don't have a crash picture. So just because a crash hasn't occurred in a certain location doesn't mean it's not at risk to have one in the future. So, for example, there are steep curves with no guardrails and no shoulders. That might be a location that is at high risk for rollovers or run off the road crashes that could result in some serious injuries or even fatalities. So that's the safety analysis piece of it. The other piece that makes this program different from the traditional safety analysis is the stress on engagement and collaboration. So we want to hear not only from the stakeholders, but also from the public to understand what is the safety picture, what are the areas of concern, what are driver behavior areas of concern, which go beyond our safety data analysis so that we can create a more robust set of recommendations that are the gamut of strategies, policies, engineering countermeasures, enforcement, education. We want to attack or assess safety issues from all of these areas so that what we come up with is a paradigm of safety improvements that covers all issues. And that's where some of the policy process changes and strategies and program selection also comes into play. The last piece is tools and transparency. Transparency and tracking is extremely important in this process because we don't want to invest millions of dollars in safety and not see if it's working. So the idea is a true transparent process that tracks the improvement in safety metrics. So these metrics will be identified. Some of the key metrics would be how many killed and severely injured crashes are occurring in the network, which is one of the key targets of the SS4A program, and how these are changing as we implement projects. So transparency can be, and tracking can be done in several ways. A lot of agencies develop annual reports on safety, and this kind of tracking is already in place. It can be augmented. A possibility in the future could be developing of safety dashboards that we've done on other projects, where it could be internal or public facing, where you can track all kinds of metrics of safety across the years and see how things are changing. So this is another crucial piece of the SS4A program. Going to some of the key program information. So what you see in that figure over there is the safe system approach. This goes towards the goal of eliminating all fatalities and serious injuries. And that is the impetus behind this program for funding all the local safety projects. And with the safe system approach, basic tenet is that safety is a shared responsibility. It's not just the vehicles that are at fault. It's not just the road that's at fault. It's not just the pedestrian that's at fault. The idea being that everybody is in safety together, and then we have to work together to really break the curve in these crashes that we see, so that we can have this ambitious goal of eliminating all serious injuries and fatalities in our roadway network. And of course, at the bottom, we talk about the crash and systemic data analysis, which is identifying high-risk locations, high crash locations, and really zeroing in on those before we can have other more systematic improvements in safety across a region. One underlying thought here is that we would ideally like to implement safety improvements across the entire region at every place we can. But again, we have a certain amount of funding available, and we want to make sure that we have the highest impact with this funding. And how do we do that? It's through this community input, stakeholder input, crash data analysis, systemic safety analysis, identifying projects of need, and then prioritizing these projects in terms of highest to lowest need, and coming up with solutions that will be tracked through the transparency and tracking process. The goals, of course, we have these safety action outcomes that we want to identify, and then we work backwards to develop a process that is most effective. And of course, learn from our previous experiences. But the main outcomes that we are looking for, of course, is regional safety improvements. So through these strategies, and these strategies need to be scalable, and we don't want to just do engineering. We want to have infrastructure engineering solutions. We want to have behavior solutions, policies that we can put in place. So again, all these other options that we have that we can work with our stakeholders to improve this whole approach to safety. The end goal, of course, being making sure that all the agencies that are part of this project or part of the safety action plan are eligible for further grants. And I'd like to stress that it's not just the Safe SS4A implementation, demonstration, or planning grants in the future, but also any other safety plan grants, such as, for example, HSIP. If you have a legitimate safety action plan that identifies projects, applying for future grants becomes a lot simpler. It also simplifies the process for each agency in terms of how do you pick a project, which project makes more sense, what are the projects that will influence the safety in the network, what is important to the community. So this action plan will look to providing this kind of information solutions readily available. And of course, with the goal of a safer transportation across the Pikes Peak region. I'm just going to quickly touch upon the SS4A funding options. These are the two types of grants that are available. So right now, the NOFO is out for 2025 for the planning and demonstration grants. These are the grants that help develop an action plan. For example, this current action plan headed by Woodland Park and administered by PPACG is through the planning and demonstration grant, which helps develop safety action plans. But you can also apply for these grants for supplemental grants to bolster an existing safety action plan. For example, you might you might require additional public input and additional stakeholder input, so you can apply for supplemental grants, or you might want to build a more detailed dashboard and you can apply for supplemental grants. So all of that falls under this. Again, the idea is to set the stage for future safety improvements, which is the implementation grants. And these are the larger grants that look for more infrastructure improvements. You can include NEPA clearances in this. You can include right-of-way acquisition in this. You can include design development in this, and then construction. And of course, the caveat being that you have to do all of those as part of this grant. You can't choose to stop at design and acquisition. It has to go all the way through construction, because this is about implementing safety and having a tangible impact on safety in the region based on these grants. Next steps, of course, the first one is the most crucial for us right now. We are in the midst of data collection, and we have started reaching out to agencies for data. By data, I mean, roadway network data. The PPACG has some very robust crash data, so we already have that. We have a lot of this data from PPACG, but we're going to need more from member agencies. Guardrail locations, number of lanes, functional classifications, posted speed limits, estimates of AADT, if operating speed data is available, shoulder widths, all kinds of things that define the roadway network where we're trying to solve the safety issues. Again, the next steps includes these quarterly TAC meetings where we want to bring you up to speed with our progress, garner your input, hone our process, make sure that we develop a safety action plan that is relevant to the region and is relevant to the communities here. Then we will, of course, draft the safety action plan, which is the final document that will be part of the implementation plan grant application. And of course, it is critical for the SS4A program that the SS4A based safety action plan that is submitted has to be adopted before it is submitted with a grant application. So the certification and adoption by PPACG board would be the last critical piece before we go for the 2026 NOFA applications. I think that was our introduction to the SS4A and what we intend to do. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments?
Hi, Victoria. This is Gail Sturdivant. I actually have a couple, and some are going to be for PPACG staff, and some are going to be from the project team. So bear with me. The PPACG staff, I just want to make sure I know where the PPACG board members are and their awareness that this regional safety action plan's underway. So I'm leading into a bigger question, but I kind of want to know some of the groundwork first.
Yeah, well, I think we're in the process of getting the new board members, so we'll get 2 new ones from Colorado Springs. And given with what we received as far as new board members in January, I would say that not all of them are aware. Because when this first started, I think it was about 2 years ago, because we sort of hit a long sort of pause getting the whole thing off the ground. And then once it did, we had some issues getting the final contracting through. So,
okay. Well, I'm going to make a comment and then really get to the meat of my question, where I want to maybe engage the team here or collectively have a discussion about it. The comment is, once you do get your board set, even though I know you weren't planning, at least on what was presented in the presentation, going to them to you are ready for adoption, I'm very concerned that you're going to need to get some buy-in from those board members up front and maybe bring them along, maybe not as the same quarterly updates that is mentioned for the TAC, but bring them along somewhere along the way, because, and this is where the meat of my concern comes in, is you have to have this leadership commitment. And you have a PPACG board where some of the board members are part of the part of the leaders involved in this area, and some are not. So I don't know if you're planning on getting the leadership commitment by PPACG, which I would be leaning towards that might not be your best approach. Or do you have to go get leadership commitments from each individual jurisdiction? And if you do so, what happens if one of those jurisdictions does not go in, and how does that impact the ability to go through implementation? So that's, I think hopefully that lays out what my concern is.
Yeah, and no, and that was a concern when we first sort of started this, um, because there is definitely in the spectrum of political leanings, there are certainly some jurisdictions that are more conservative than others. And so one of the early discussions was, um, is this going to the PPACG board? And the answer that we talked through this with the feds, and again, the feds that we talked to 2 years ago might not still be there, but at the time it was, no, this is the PPACG doing it. And that allowed us to have projects included in the plan that may otherwise have difficulties going through maybe their individual jurisdiction. So it was looked at as in the aggregate as a region-wide sort of thing. And so therefore it is going to the PPACG board. The PPACG adoption is all that was necessary, not the individual jurisdictions. So that was the response back then. I will say that we do have sort of a new playing field, so to speak, with some different executive orders. And so we're also wondering if at some point the outlay of of the process to make it a certified action plan, that robust public input, if that is going to be adjusted, because that contained some of the wording that was asked to be adjusted by the administration. So, and if that's the case, we're sort of waiting to see what happens there. And that might actually then speed up the process, so to speak, right? Instead of saying you need to have 50 open houses and they have to, again, sort of fall within all of this criteria, maybe now it is only 4 open houses and you can have them in certain things, and you don't need to have a cross section of certain communities attend those meetings. So we're waiting to sort of find that out. But again, I think as we all know, dealing with the federal government at this point, the best we can do is sort of move forward and wait for further guidance as it comes. But at this point, we believe that we're going to hold to what we heard in the beginning, was that this is something that is going to be developed and go to the PPACG board of directors, and that was good enough. We're hoping that perhaps maybe the process will be streamlined some, but until we get guidance, we can't count on that. Does that help?
Oh, I think that's great. I mean, it sounds like you have an approach. I would, just knowing that you have a makeup of PPACG board members that aren't necessarily invested stakeholders on this particular plan, that staff works to develop a strategy to bring them along and to get buy-in for the good of the region. So when you get to the adoption piece, that maybe it could be less of a learning curve and less maybe pushback. And we'll be happy to offline have some strategy discussions with you on that. But I would like to be able to see you get over the finish line. I just had some concerns as I, going through the process to get you there in the end.
Yeah, I think those are very valid concerns, and we would welcome all of your assistance in trying to navigate that. Because again, we deal with folks kind of once a month, and even then it's only a portion of the boards. You all, as the individual jurisdictions, deal with your complete board all the time. So we will take any and all guidance and advice that we can get.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? All right, very good. Thank you, Jason. All right, member entity announcements. Does anybody have anything for the good of the group? Gail.
I have 2 things for the good of the group today. One is a project that was first initiated really by PPACG, and it was for the interchange improvements at US 24 in Peterson. We did brief the command staff on that project yesterday and held a pre-construction open house last night for that project. But that project is moving forward. You'll see construction start shortly after the 1st of May. So thank you for everyone who's been involved in that all the way across PPACG staff and the other member governments on that. And then for the Fillmore Street Bridge Improvement Project, as you may recall, the city has that bridge investment program grant. We are in the middle of the planning environmental linkage study. There is a open house this evening at 4:30. It starts between 4:30 and 6:30 if you're interested in attending. This is the second major stakeholder event as we go through this PEL to get that over the finish line. So we're still hopeful to be able to get a bridge grant to be able to get that into construction sooner as opposed to later. So if you're interested and want more information, just ping us. Thank you. Yes, John.
Congratulations on the Peterson thing. When I first got here almost 7 years ago, that was really floundering. And there was a lot of well, we can't do this and we can't do that. A lot of can'ts as part of the discussion. And again, thank you for your leadership to actually get this one to where we're actually going to see something. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's an exciting regional project, and I'm glad a lot of key stakeholders came together, and the folks out there are so happy that this is coming. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Mountain Metro is excited to announce that we were awarded funding for free fare. So June, July, and August in the region. And we also have our first hybrid bus from the 2023 Lono Award that has been delivered. So hopefully it'll be accepted soon and you guys will see it out on the roads. And we have 2 new hybrid minivans going into our paratransit services as well.
Great. Thank you. Karen.
I can't announce who yet, but the city of Manitou Springs should have a new city engineer starting May 12th. They're going to have their formal announcement out May 1st, but because they're making sure that an engineer gets on board with everything, I'll see whether I'll be here next month or not. So it may just be a brief appearance. And just the Dillon, they have a Dillon parking lot. So it's a parking lot next to US 24, closer towards the city of Colorado Springs. That should be opening June 1st. So, and then there's buildings next to it that'll be restrooms and a parking building that will be under construction while the parking lot's open. But it's a quote unquote temporary parking lot until they have the funds to pave the whole thing and all that. But we'll have ADA parking and we'll be open June 1st, kind of as additional parking for the incline and for access to the city for the summer months. And they're still working on plans for improvements at Hiawatha for a mobility hub there. But that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Karen. You're always welcome back.
Yeah, and on that, Manitou engineer thing, I wasn't aware they even had trains.
Hi, this is Scott Skinner with CDOT Transit Liaison, and I just wanted to give a few updates on the transit stuff. Yesterday at TC, the DTR gave a presentation on bus staying Outrider, and it's doing healthy, doing really good. We're waiting our TCS, our Transit Connection Study. That's going to be coming out. They're going to get a gaps and needs analysis this week. So then draft is looking early in May, and then TC is going to review that in June. And June is when we should be getting those drafts out to you guys for you guys to review as well. And then I also wanted to give an update. There is a bus staying app we're developing, and it's for the main line, so down here, and that'll where you can book your rides and pay for everything all in one little app, and that should be August or September is when we should be seeing that come out. And I believe that's about all that's related to the region here. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Kathleen, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to give folks a friendly reminder that the STIP for fiscal year 26 through 29, the draft is out for public comment until May 9th. There will be a telephone town hall for the Colorado Springs area on April 29th, and that'll take place in the evening from 6:30 to 7:30. And then also the next stack meeting will be May 1st, and it will be in person at CDOT HQ. And those are the things I just wanted to convey. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Sorry, I didn't have an agenda and I was actually waiting my turn for the CDOT. Here we are.
We didn't, it was too short of a meeting. We didn't need to, sorry, no teasing.
So I have an answer for the group from Michael Snow. Is MMOF a state enterprise fund? No. Fiscal year 24 and beyond is all dedicated retail delivery fees plus a $10.5 million general fund transfer beginning in fiscal year 26. Would everybody like me to repeat that? Guess not. Secondly,
No, go ahead and repeat that again, please. We were all pondering.
the question asked was, is MMOF a state enterprise fund? And the answer from Michael Snow is no. Fiscal year 24 and beyond is all dedicated retail delivery fees. Those were created in Senate Bill 21-260. And then that also, sorry, everybody. That doesn't also include, additionally, that Senate bill allocated $10.5 million in general fund transfers beginning in fiscal year 26.
Transfers to MMOF.
From the general fund to MMOF.
So that tells me that the first cup is the deepest in that it's taking any funds that are sitting. But that also means that if you believe that next legislative session, the problem will be worse because they've already busted open the piggy bank. They've already ransacked the couch cushions. So if they have any deficit next year, they're not going to have any saved up funds to raid. So that means even if MMOF survives or what survives after this year, does not necessarily mean that it's going to survive subsequent years. And because it is not an enterprise fund, it is not protected. So it could be rated in subsequent years. That's my take on it. Take it for what it's worth, but I could be wrong. I'm not wrong.
I'm no lawyer, but it's also interesting that fees being paid were dedicated to something that is now not happening.
Yeah.
Again, not a lawyer.
At SB 260, we got bamboozled because there were a lot of promises that the state legislature has not followed through on. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, well, and two things. I mean, this was put in place because it also was part of 21-260 is where we had the linkage to the greenhouse gas requirements, and this fund was put in place to help jurisdictions to be able to meet those mitigation requirements, one. And the other portion of the legislation, which is, I guess it sounds they could do some of this without the proposed legislation, but with the proposed House Bill 25-1303, they're contemplating a new fee to replenish the MMOF, which still may not be protected. So we've been bamboozled once and maybe a second time.
Oh, wait, I have a third one to add to that. So in Senate Bill 25030, there is money available to local governments to do the planning work for bikes and pedestrians that could be funded with MMOF that is now no longer there as well. Interesting place that we're in right now.
Madam Chair, if I can chime in, this is Jared. Senate Bill 30, they took out the MMOF funding ability. So, but I also say to local governments do not have to go back and create new plans. They can use their existing plans to develop that inventory. So not to add pile on, but there is no money in Senate Bill 30.
Oh, so now it is completely an unfunded
Yes, it
mandate. Okay, good to know.
We didn't land on Boulder. Boulder landed on us. Yeah.
Oh, any more exciting? Yes, Jeff. What more good news do you have for us?
On a different note, Region 2, we're meeting internally with Shane this next week, along with our 3 program engineers and whomever else wants to join the party internally. But we are meeting internally, and we expect to have our staff recommended list of what CDOT sees as the new 10-year plan proposal for PPACG's input starting at the May TAC meeting and then moving into the June Board of Directors timeframe for, I guess, adoption.
Okay, thank you. Any other great news for the group today? I think we're done. Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.